Derek Carr's reported shoulder injury has pushed the New Orleans Saints into a corner. Drafting a quarterback in 2025 is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. The news, leaked just as the draft looms, has upended the Saints' previous plans, which favored picking Shedeur Sanders with the 9th overall selection. Until now, the idea was to find a developing quarterback while Carr would at least start the season as the veteran signal caller. With Carr now likely out for the entire year after surgery, the urgency has skyrocketed. The shift in urgency is already evident in the betting markets. Earlier in the week, the Saints were heavy favorites to draft a quarterback at plus 300 odds, but after the Carr news broke, those odds shifted to 105. This indicates that the league recognizes New Orleans is now under pressure to grab a quarterback in the first round, possibly even moving up in the draft order if they want to secure Sanders or a similar prospect. Teams ahead in the draft gain additional leverage because if the Saints decide to shift their target upward, those teams know Sanders or Jackson Dart could be available. The situation is even more complicated because the Saints never really saw Carr as their long-term answer. He was meant to be a temporary bridge, with Sanders seen as the ideal future starter, a plan that rested on having a veteran guide during the rookie's learning curve. With Carr's injury, drafting a quarterback in the first round becomes a riskier proposition. A rookie might be forced to start right away, or else be stashed away and miss valuable developmental time, an option that new head coach Kellen might not be thrilled about. In a perfect scenario, the Saints could draft Sanders and use him as a long-term project, perhaps even allowing him to sit for a year behind a veteran like Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. But the new reality is messier. With Carr's injury, the Saints have fewer established options for the 2025 season. The pressure is on to draft a quarterback who could make an immediate impact while building for the future, even if that means settling for a player who isn't a perfect fit right out of the gate. Ultimately, the draft has suddenly become a must-win situation for New Orleans. The league now knows that the Saints are desperate for a quarterback solution, which could force them to take a risk in the first round. Whether they land Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, or another option remains to be seen, but the message is clear. With Carr sidelined, the Saints must secure a quarterback sooner rather than later. The quarterback situation for the New Orleans Saints has taken on urgent new dimensions after reports surfaced that starter Derek Carr is now dealing with a shoulder injury that may require surgery, putting his availability for the 2025 season in serious doubt. According to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, Carr is weighing his options, including the possibility of undergoing surgery, which could potentially keep him sidelined for the entire season. This news comes on the heels of an already tumultuous 2024 campaign for Carr, who missed 3 games due to an oblique injury and then suffered further setbacks in Week 14 with a fractured hand and a concussion. In an effort to manage salary cap constraints for the future, the Saints restructured Carr's contract last month. This move freed up $30.9 million in cap space for 2025, while setting his cap hit for 2026 at $69.2 million. However, given that the team is already over the cap by $25.9 million for 2026, Carr's injury-related uncertainty compounds the financial challenges the organization faces. Currently, the Saints have 4 quarterbacks on their roster: Carr, rookie Spencer Rattler, who started 6 games last season in relief of Carr and went 0-6, and backups Ben DiNucci and Jake Haener. If Carr becomes unavailable for 2025, Rattler is positioned as the likely next man up, unless the Saints manage to draft a promising quarterback early in the 2025 NFL Draft. In that regard, there is growing buzz about prospects like Shedeur Sanders, who is emerging as a contender at the number 9 overall spot, especially if teams with franchise quarterbacks, such as Miami's Cam Ward, pass on him. The implications of Carr's injury are significant. Not only does it raise questions about who will take over the starting role immediately, but it also leaves the Saints with a lingering long-term need at the quarterback position. Even if Carr were to make a partial recovery, his current cap numbers and past injury history could force the team to further reconfigure their roster and possibly even trade him if he isn't ready to play. In summary, the news that Derek Carr might require surgery and miss the 2025 season has increased the pressure on the Saints to secure an alternative quarterback solution as soon as possible. Whether through the draft or via a trade, the team now faces an urgent need to fill a gap that could impact their competitiveness in the near term and complicate their financial future.
The video you sent over highlights the unfortunate timing of this news regarding Derek Carr's shoulder injury. Just as teams are finalizing their draft boards, the Saints are now facing an urgent and unexpected need at the most crucial position on the field: quarterback. What was perhaps a possibility of drafting a quarterback for the future has now become a near necessity for the present. Previously, the Saints were in a decent position to potentially draft a quarterback, with Shedeur Sanders from Colorado being a name that was frequently linked to them. The fit seemed logical for both sides, using the 9th overall pick to select Sanders, allowing him to develop behind a veteran like Carr for at least the 2025 season. Seemed like a smart long-term plan. However, this new development surrounding Carr's injury has completely changed the urgency. The idea of waiting on a quarterback until the later rounds of the draft or even until next year now seems like a non-option for the Saints. They need a viable quarterback solution, and they likely need it sooner rather than later. Even Deion Sanders, Shedeur's college head coach and father, seems to have recognized the shift in the Saints' needs. While he hasn't made any official statements, the increased buzz around the Saints potentially drafting his son certainly suggests an understanding of the heightened urgency in New Orleans. The video you provided also points to the dramatic shift in betting odds. Earlier this week, the odds at BetMGM for which position the Saints would draft first had quarterback at plus 300, meaning a $100 bet would win you $300. But after the news of Carr's injury broke, those odds have flipped dramatically. As of Friday afternoon, the odds of the Saints drafting a quarterback with their first pick had moved to minus 105, making it the overwhelming favorite. The next closest position was cornerback at a distant plus 625. This significant shift in betting odds clearly reflects the widespread understanding of the Saints' newfound quarterback predicament. The report emphasizes that everyone around the league now knows the Saints don't just want a quarterback. They likely cannot afford to leave the first day of the draft without one. This puts them in a vulnerable position. Teams drafting ahead of the Saints at pick number 9 now have increased trade leverage if New Orleans becomes desperate to move up and secure a specific quarterback. Similarly, teams drafting behind the Saints who might be eyeing quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart know that the Saints are highly likely to be targeting a quarterback at pick 9. Or even earlier if they trade up. While it wasn't necessarily a secret that Derek Carr wasn't considered the long-term quarterback solution for the Saints, the possibility that he might not even be the short-term answer for the 2025 season puts the Saints' draft plans firmly into focus. What do you think the Saints should do with the 9th overall pick? Should they take a chance on Shedeur Sanders? Should they try to trade up for another quarterback they like? Or should they look at other positions and hope Carr recovers quickly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more NFL draft analysis and Saints news. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future content. We'll see you in the next one.